By some estimates, up to 70% of the artifacts that we clamor to see in museums all around the world are actually stolen. The underside of a global market that's worth billions. Seth Doane looks at the growing effort to return some of these looted treasures to their rightful owners.
Here's a dirty little secret. Up until 10 years ago, it was considered oh so gauche to ask inconvenient questions of provenance. Colonel, don't you understand? It just wasn't done.
He's an assistant district attorney in Manhattan, homicide prosecutor, and retired Marine colonel with a master's degree in the classics. It makes him a powerful foe against those trafficking, trading, or buying stolen antiquities.
The world of cocktail parties and bespoke suits and limousines pulling up to the curb. How could I ask someone of that stature, do you have the invoice or do you have any proof that it was legally removed from the country of origin? And so that was then. I got it. This is now.
Amid seized antiquities, we heard how Matthew Bogdanos has been employing his detective skills, prosecutorial powers, and yes, a bit of bravado to target the illicit art world. He founded the DA's Antiquities Trafficking Unit in 2010 with one employee.
Now we have 18 people.
But it is relatively young unit. Was the sense that this was not important?
Bear in mind that we live in a world of infinite problems and finite resources. I'm primarily a homicide prosecutor. Even now, that's half my job. Much like homicide, when a loved one is taken from you, it's forever. When an antiquity is pillaged, it's gone forever.
Your jurisdiction is New York. It's an important big city, but it is just New York.
Yeah, the words just in New York should actually never be in the same sentence. Sure, it's just New York. We do have, the best galleries in the world, some of the finest museums in the world. More importantly, if it passes through New York, we have jurisdiction no matter where it is now. If the wire transfer was made in New York, we have jurisdiction no matter where it is now. If it was offered for sale, if it was shown at an auction. So sure, my jurisdiction is limited to New York City, but to update a phrase, all roads lead to New York.
When deployed to Iraq in 2003, Bogdanos engaged his troops in tracking down objects looted from Baghdad's Iraq Museum. Today, his team of civilians, detectives, agents, and historians has recovered more than 4,500 antiquities in the U.S., valued around $300 million.
It is an honor to be here today.
Just last Tuesday, a more than 2,000-year-old bronze bowl or crater stolen from a tomb in Macedonia was handed to Greece's culture minister.
It was sitting in a burial tomb.
Ahead of that repatriation ceremony, Bogdanos let us get a closer look.
This was recovered from an Upper East Side apartment here in New York.
This was sitting in someone's home.
Sitting in someone's home. There's this Sardinian idol here.
They've recovered objects from 28 countries, repatriating more to Italy than anywhere else.
Cosa avete dentro? What do you have inside here?
Italy's paramilitary police force, the Carabinieri, granted us access to their vault in Rome. It's packed with stolen and fraudulent art they've seized. Major Paolo Salvatori is commander of the Art Police's archaeology section. These objects were illegally excavated, he told us. By Italian law, they belong to the state. Countries have their own cultural heritage laws, which govern the protection of antiquities. In enforcing Italy's, Salvatori often turns to a familiar ally.
Matthew Bogdanos.
Bogdanos' team has helped repatriate more than 500 pieces to Italy. And last summer, Italy opened a museum of rescued art in Rome.
Every single item in that museum was recovered and returned by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. The centerpiece was obviously the Orpheus and Sirens from the Getty that Italy had been trying to recover for 30 years.
We asked the J. Paul Getty Museum in Los Angeles about those pieces found to be stolen or illegally excavated. They declined our request for an on-camera interview, but told us thanks to information provided by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, we determined that these objects should be returned. The Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, however, did welcome us in.
How many objects are in the Met's collection?
We generally use the number 1.5 million, although it's a rough number. Because
Andrea Bayer, the deputy director for collections, took us to see an object on loan from Italy.
The Euphronius crater went back to Italy, and they have been sending us object by object.
The Met appeared eager to highlight constructive cooperation with museums after having made headlines for showcasing objects that should not have been there, including this gold coffin which Kim Kardashian posed next to during the 2018 Met Gala. It had been illegally smuggled out of Egypt.
We were the victims of an international fraud. So we learned it was an uncomfortable lesson for us.
That picture of Kardashian went viral.
One of the people who saw that photograph was one of the people who looted that coffin out of Egypt. One of his co-conspirators happened to be one of my informants. Sheer coincidence.
Bogdanos reviewed the paperwork provided to the Met.
The permit was issued in May of 1971, and the permit stamp said AR Egypt, Arab Republic of Egypt. Well, here's the problem, smugglers. In May of 1971, the Arab Republic of Egypt did not exist. It was the United Arab Republic. And so we confronted the Met with that, and the coffin is now in Cairo where it belongs.
In recent decades, we've become much more conscientious and conscious of this history of the objects and more careful. By 1970, the UNESCO guidelines came out saying you must know where works of art were excavated or where they were sold from. This is a sort of dividing line date for us. And once the world community began to look at things in that way, we've been out in front ever since.
You say you try to be out in front of this, but subpoenas have been issued, search warrants have been carried out. How embarrassing is that for an institution?
So Mr. Bogdanos is actually our ally in this. We don't see this as a confrontational thing with him. If his office is in possession of information that we do not have, it's our responsibility, our duty, and the thing we want to do to make sure that it is returned to the proper owner. This is a fantastic object.
Andrea Bayer wanted us to see a newer addition to their collection.
One of the few great antiquities that we've been able to buy in recent years.
The Met purchased this wellhead in 2019, and Bayer says they can trace its history since it was excavated.
And there are no scary gaps in that provenance.
Which must be a relief
which is
for
a
someone like
tremendous
you.
relief to me and to all of my colleagues.
That ancient crater is already on its way to a museum in Greece. Matthew Bogdanos wants repatriated pieces overseas put on display, and museums and collectors in the U.S. put on notice.
We have informants in many museums around the country. So
You have undercover agents in museums.
I wouldn't call them undercover agents. I would call them academics and archaeologists and art historians who care.
And will call you if they see something.
Yes.
You must have a very busy phone.